Okay, so picking up, this thing did eventually finish, and then it was correct. It just took a while to run. I should have been more aggressive about burning states, but I was not. It didn't take forever. It probably took about 10 minutes or so to run, between 10 and 15 minutes. So that's not the worst either, but it's not the best. So, and then I got the correct answer, and then I went on to part two, and in part two, um, they basically did two things. It's the same problem, but they said, um, in part two, we want to go, instead of 24 minutes, we want to go to 32 minutes, but now we only want to look at the first three blueprints. Um, and we don't worry about quality levels. We just get the exact geo numbers and multiply them. So, so there were two things that needed to happen. One, I just needed to write this geode product function, which is exactly what it sounds like, which is for each blueprint, compute the max blueprints and then just multiply them together. So, and then run that on just the first three of them. So that's nothing complicated. The second thing is that I found a bug, which is that so this overestimate max geodes took a max time as an input parameter, but I wasn't passing that all the way through in this max geodes thing, which was a mistake on my part. Luckily, I caught it because one of them came back as 0 because I didn't increase the max time enough, which was fine. So I had to pass through this max time, which is going to be 32 in the second part, and get an estimate based on that. And then similarly, when I call it again, I need to call max time again. And when I ran it, you can see it took about close to 7 minutes to run on the first three. So that's not terrible. It's not great, but I'm sure there's a bunch more optimizations I can make that would make it run faster, but it worked. I had the 6 minutes to give, even if I wasn't filming it, because that would be a boring thing to watch. So again, this is calling it a star search. I don't know. I mean, a star search is a thing. I don't know if that's really what you should call this, but it's basically, we did this a couple days ago. Can't remember which one it was, but where I have a queue of things I need to explore, but now I want to find like the max of something. And so what I do is I overestimate the max of something, and then I use a priority queue so that I can pull off the overestimates. And that way, I'm always going to be looking at the highest estimates before the lowest estimates. And and I also know like what I've actually achieved. And once the overestimates drop below what I've already achieved, I know I must be done, right? Like if I know, um, if I have a thing on the queue that says I estimate that the max I can get this way is 40, and everything on the queue behind me is even worse, and I know that I've already gotten 50 some other way, then I know that 50 has to be the best I can do. And so that's sort of the concept that I went through here. I went through it the other day too. And then the other thing I did was, these tuples order lexicographically, right? So, especially at the beginning, like when when I haven't generated any geodes yet, because it takes a long time to generate the geodes, right? You have to build this thing and then build that thing and build that thing. So that means that this overestimate max geodes is really just going to be a tie whenever you have the same number of steps left, right? So when you have 30 steps left, it's always the same. When you have 20 steps left, it's always the same. And so I needed some tiebreakers, right? So I said, okay, let's say I have a tie, then I'm going to break that tie by looking at whoever has the most geode robots. I'm going to break that tie, because again, that's going to be 0 for a long time, by whoever has the most geodes. I'm going to break that tie by whoever has. So these are basically, as I go down this, these are all tiebreakers all the way down to clay. And so, early on, this is going to be just how many time steps am I? And this is going to be 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. And so then I'm just going to prioritize, among people who have the same overestimate, prioritize ones who've made clay, because you need to make clay to go further down. And that tie breaking is going to, I don't know if it actually makes a difference, to be honest, now that I'm explaining it out, because I'm still going to have to go through all those eventually. So maybe this made no difference and only the overestimate max geodes made a difference, but whatever. I did it. It worked somehow. And yeah, it's a sort of thing where here is a bunch of options, right? Build nothing, build or robot, build clay robot, build up. So I can always build one thing or zero things. And so I basically just generate all these, stick them on the queue. And again, like I said before, this is a place where named tuples really shine over data classes because just because it's easy to do this self.replace and get a new object rather than having to do like create a data class, which you'd have to assign all the values. And then it's also good. The second reason is that I can stick name tuples into a set because they're basically tuples and they're immutable. Whereas data classes, I can't really stick into a set. I'd have to like maybe implement a hash function. Anyway, name tuples are a strictly better choice here. So even though I've said that I've like backed off of my love of name tuples and use data classes most of the time, here's someplace where I really did need to use name tuples and not data classes. So that's that. And I will be back tomorrow with day 20. All right, cool.